Hey everyone, it's me again. Today I got you a juicy video explaining how to deal damage with your guns, including primary and secondary. So without further ado, let's get started. To start things, we should know the term base damage that can be seen in mods like Serration and Heavy Caliber. These mods have the same bonus, which is base damage. To calculate our base damage, we use the equation base damage times 1 plus modded base damage in decimal. For example, the Tenet Flux rifle has 33.7 base damage. If we add Serration to it and Heavy Caliber, we get a total of 135 base damage. And since the addition of new fancy arcanes for primary and secondary weapons that gives you 360% base damage, we don't need to use these mods in most cases. Now we'll talk about elements. For this term, we need to know the difference between physical damage mods, which is called IBS mods, impact, puncture, and slash, and other elements like heat, toxin, etc. For example, slash mods like Sawtooth Clip don't give you slash damage. It only makes slash proc more, which is known as proc priority. Also adding it to a weapon that has no slash, for example the Phantasma, you are getting no benefit. But it's a different story with elemental mods like Toxin, Electric, Heat, and Cold. These mods can be added even if the weapon doesn't have it in its main stats. For example, adding Cry rounds to the Tenet Flux rifle will give you 30.4 cold damage in your stats and total base damage of 64.1, and the equation will be as shown. In the last section I mentioned proc priority. This term is affected by status chance, which is the chance of proccing one of the elements that your weapon has. If you have 100% status chance, you are guaranteed to get a proc on each shot, and it is affected by multi-shot, meaning each shot has a chance to proc and a status effect. If you notice, I keep saying status effect and elements. This takes me to damage type and its status effect. There is a big difference between the damage type and its status effect. For example, viral damage is neutral to alloy and ferrite armor, but it's really strong against clone flesh. But its status effect does a completely different thing. When you apply 10 stacks, every damage you deal after that you will be multiplied by 3.25 times and will hit the health directly. So it works really well with slash, which is also weak against armor type as a damage type. But its status effect is a DOT that benefits from your base damage and faction damage mods and other multipliers. For example, the headshot damage multiplier, which is 3 times. Some other way to enhance your damage is crits, which can be splitted into crit chance and crit damage. Crits can multiply your damage tremendously because it multiplies your total damage by your critical damage multiplier. For example, the same Tenet Flux rifle has 20% crit chance and 1.8 crit damage. If we added critical delay and vital sense, you get 60% critical chance in total and 4 crit multiplier or crit damage. There are also crit tiers, which increases your crit damage, and you can also get higher crit tiers using the Vigilante set bonus that gives you a chance to get a higher crit tier than the one you're hitting. You can multiply or increase your damage using other terms. You can add more fire rate, multi-shot, recoil reduction. Trust me, it works. Even aiming at the head is a damage increase since it gives you 3 times damage multiplier. You can also have gun CO that gives you base damage on an enemy that has a lot of unique status effects and also gives you status chance. Also, we have access to defense reduction abilities and augments like Seeking Shuriken from Ash and Psychic Pulse from Nyx, and damage buffs like Roar from Rhino, which is considered a faction damage bonus by the way, and Eclipse from Mirage, which is a final damage multiplier. Also, you need to consider the enemy defense to apply the most effective debuffs. You also need to make sure not to add too much of one thing because it leads to diminishing returns. After all of that, when to use what. You can use whatever element you want, but you have to consider the damage type you are using, if it's a DOT or a raw damage. Also, you need to know if the most effective element on the faction you're up against. For example, if you want to use electric DOT against Greniers that have ferrite armor and alloy armor, you will need to use armor stripping abilities for this to work, because the electric damage and status effect is very weak against armor, but it's really strong against clone flesh, which is achieved by armor stripping. So the conclusion is play whatever you like, but use the wiki or join my Discord and ask me personally. And to make things even better, I'll show you some builds for a lot of weapons.
I'm gonna cock my nine, mother. I'm gonna cock my nine. I'm gonna cock my nine, mother. I'm gonna cock my nine. I'm gonna cock my nine, mother.
So